you're going to love this one tonight. We found the one issue that Congress seems to support in bipartisan manner. 357 to 65. Oh, that's not to fund the Department of Homeland Security that's shut down, or veterans issues, or any other general governance. That's the vote to block the release of the details relating to the nearly $18 million Congress has paid out for sexual harassment claims. I mean, it could be more. We actually don't know. I have been screaming about this for years. Congress, no problem here. Nothing to see. $17 million in settlements for things just like this, for the exact same thing. But that's our tax dollars. Many in an election season. That totally fine. Nothing to see here. And I had some hope this might actually get exposed, because just 5 months ago, the same body of Congress voted 427 to 1 to release the Epstein files, for transparency, for the mistreatment of young women. Yeah, okay. At least some people in Congress are as irate as I am about this.
I just think it's really disgusting how this institution protects itself, because y'all just half of them voted to send this stuff to House Ethics, where it's going to die. We know that members of Congress are using taxpayer dollars to pay off sexual harassment. We just had a member of Congress literally sexually harass a woman that then lit herself on fire, and you guys all protected him.
Yep, she's right about all that. This fund came out of, this is all going to make sense in a sec. It came out of a 1995 bill, H.R. 1, called the, get this, Congressional Accountability Act. Stuffed in this little section of $18 million, stuffed into the corner of the bill to settle claims against sitting members and their senior staff. Oh, and guess who signed it into law?
This bill demonstrates the common resolve of people here that those in power should not lose touch with those who sent them here. We must make this system more open, more fair, and less elitist.
Is that open or fair or unelitist? You honestly cannot make this stuff up. DC is such a dump. And if you're not mad yet, just keep watching. In 2017, then Congressman Ron DeSantis, who's now the governor of Florida, introduced an amendment to that bill that would have, quote, prohibited the use of public funds for payments of awards and settlements resulting from violations of certain CAA rights, and protections if the violation consisted of sexual harassment or sexual assault. It was referred to committee and never voted on. Sound familiar yet? This is why, according to Economist YouGov poll, Congress has a 16% approval rating, basically down there with herpes. Because they can't fund the government. They can barely pass voter ID out of the House. It still hasn't been passed in the Senate. They light money on fire for shrimp running on treadmills, refused to cut fraud, but overwhelmingly voted to make sure that the list of Congress members who had used taxpayer dollars to pay off sexual harassment claims didn't get out in the public. Which begs the question, how many freaking people are on that list? You do not hate the government enough. And, oh, by the way, pay your taxes. That's coming up in a month, too. And the only reason it made it to the floor vote, by the way, was because Nancy Mace forced it under some specific rule. And she's also now saying that she's going to subpoena the records and promises to read them on the House floor. So we're going to be covering that one, too. Now, I'm honestly shocked to see some of the folks that were just not like, hey, yeah, look, we got to get this out right now. You had guys like Tom Emmer, Pat Fallon, Guy Reschenthaler, who's one of my closest friends and has always been what I thought the last moral compass in Congress. Greg Steube, hardcore conservatives that I know personally, they voted to table this or send it to committee. AOC gave some rambling reason, saying, quote, the idea is good, but the text itself was rushed and not thought through. It violated a lot of standard practices to protect survivors and due process. It also released documents related to allegations found to be false or unsubstantiated, not verified violations or settlements. So innocent people would get lumped in with violators. Blah, blah, blah. We went on. Oh, so now AOC is worried about allegations being taken as fact. Yo, this you, lady?
All these journalists are like, Congresswoman, are you going to the inauguration? Congresswoman, are you going to the inauguration? Are you going to the inauguration? Let me make myself clear. I don't celebrate rapists.
Making allegations of a crime that didn't even meet the bar for a trial in criminal court, where rape wasn't even substantiated in the civil case by the same woman who said on CNN that rape was sexy. That was Trump's accuser. And she had a cat named Vagina. Cool. You also went around for years saying that Trump was guilty of Russian collusion. How'd that turn out, AOC? But everyone else justifying this, saying, oh, we didn't vote against releasing the list. We just voted to send it to the ethics committee. Do not try to explain this one away to me. I hate this. Look, I have a bunch of friends who are congressmen, and I call them up on issues, and 50% of the time I'm like, hey, man, this thing that you guys are doing is really stupid. Please don't do it. I don't think it has support from the American people. And they'll launch into this like, well, Carl, let me explain what's actually... Nope, not interested in hearing any of that on this issue. Okay, there are like 17 or 18 million dollars that have been paid out for sexual misconduct, and they've been sealed by the same people who paid it out. I want to know who those payments were on behalf of. It's not too much to ask. Maybe I should just stop paying taxes. Oh, that's right. The same body passed a law that I have to, no matter what they do. You see how annoying this is? Let me say this louder for any of the congressmen, even my friends that think this is going to go away. You better release this list, and some others agree.
The House just did the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. We just voted to cover up sexual harassment of employees by members.
They voted against my resolution that would reveal members of Congress who sexually harass employees on the Hill, women on the Hill, in the campaigns, lobbyists, etc. Shameful. So I don't want to hear.
They sent it to the ethics committee. Right. So a bunch of congressmen are going to investigate.
So
themselves.
Let it go get hidden, right?
Yeah, this is exactly where bills go to die.
The ethics committee. This ethics committee, where in 2017 the head of said ethics committee was accused of assaulting women, which was settled out of court. I mean, did that come from this fund? We don't know. That's the same dude, by the way, that had a DUI and literally crashed into someone's house. Okay, he hit two parked cars. He's still the head of it. Yeah, I'm sure this bill will get right out of committee. You see how this is procedural gimmick stuff. To tie this list up in the legislative process, avoid it ever coming out, and hope we forget about it. I mean, who knows? Maybe Congress will authorize us to bomb another country just to cover it up. Reps can try to justify this any way they want, but as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter why someone voted not to advance this. My personal opinion, if anybody voted against exposing this, I'm going with the theory that they're probably hiding something. Like, don't you dare try to hide behind some garbage like, protecting victims, as AOC and some others are already saying, because you all voted to release the Epstein files. And the only person who voted against it was the one guy who raised this concern, Clay Higgins. I'm not saying I agree with his vote, but he was the only one that didn't vote for the Epstein files for victim security. I mean, hypocrites, right? You cannot make this up. Literally 30 minutes, too, after Congress took that vote to vote this down, this woman came out all fired up.
The Oversight Committee just voted to subpoena Attorney General Pam Bondi. This means that she will have to come before the Oversight Committee and answer questions about her egregious cover-up of the Epstein files.
Yeah, I mean, look, I agree with her on Pam being a little bit derelict of duty on the release of this, but this woman, this congresswoman's all full of piss and vinegar on that. But then that woman right there, voted to not release the Congressional Slush Fund. It's a little confusing, but a yay vote was a vote to send it to the Ethics Committee, not to not release it. But you know what, Pam? Oh, boy, do I have a great idea for you. Because two can play that game. You should also subpoena those files from Congress. I mean, go to court. You're not doing anything else right now. Do this, and I will be your number one ally for that mission. Either way, I've been talking about this for years. I'm going to be like a dog with a bone on this one. I'm going to find lawyers and activist groups to take this all the way to the mat. Heck, I'll pay for Eric Swalwell's side piece to fly back from China if that'll help get this across the finish line. It's not going away. I'm not going to let it go away. And if it brings down the whole system, don't care. Kentucky congressman to throw some bombs. Thomas Massie, sir, we agree on a lot. Not all everything, and Iran we'll get to in a sec, but I got an idea. Why don't we get this slush fund, we get this out there, and do you have anybody or any knowledge of anybody that's currently on that's paid money on behalf of this fund?
I do not, but I'll tell you when I exposed the existence of this fund. It was several years ago, and the Democrats, by the way, they're being total hypocrites on the vote on this slush fund. The Democrats, in a hearing, were trying to rake Donald Trump over the coals for a payment to Stormy Daniels that he didn't disclose on a campaign expense report. But that's not even a legitimate thing to put as a campaign expense. But they were trying to convict him of these trumped-up charges, and it was because of non-disclosure of this payment to Stormy Daniels. And that's when I blew the whistle on this $17 million fund. And my hat's off to Nancy Mace for getting this done. I co-sponsored this with her to bring it to the floor. You got to believe, Carl, these guys did not want to take that vote. So they're mad at Nancy Mace and me and some other folks who forced this vote to happen. Yeah. And they're on the record now. If they don't like the way the bill was written, it's just like the Epstein files. When I pushed that through, everybody said, oh, it's not perfect. It doesn't do this. It doesn't do that. And I told them, if you don't like the way it's written, put your own bill on the floor. And none of them would. Nope. And they have no intention of resurrecting this thing out of the Ethics Committee.
You know, Congressman, it's interesting. When you mentioned that, I actually had you on to discuss that exact payment problem and the Congressional slush fund. It was in June of 2024 is when we did that. The other issue here is you brought up Epstein, and a viewer actually wrote me this email, and I was like, this totally just dawned on me when she sent me this email that said Trump should actually make a special appointment to a Democrat to handle the Epstein files and have only the scope of authority within that very narrow thing, and then just offload it to the Democrats. Is that something you think you might support?
If the president would support it, I would support it. Look, we're not getting the answers we need from Pam Bondi, and she might be happy to offload this to somebody else as well, because, you know, I just spent 3 hours at the DOJ this week looking on the computers at the unredacted files, and I'm finding evidence of files that they haven't released yet. And I'm going to be over there and keep digging on that. But, you know, we got them to release 3 million files. There's still a lot more they need to get out.
It's so shocking to me when they keep telling us they're all out. Todd Blanche came out, Pam Bondi came, and they're not. Just like, don't lie to me. Like, I don't like being lied to. That's why Republicans are probably going to lose the House. Here's the other thing I got a little bit of a bone to pick with you, sir. Iran. Now that we're in it, okay, I realize you're against it. I'm not wild about going to war or things like this if we don't have to. But now that we're in it, do you think it's a good idea to finish the campaign because it would risk Iran falling back to the same people we just tried to get out of there?
Well, look, I think what Congress owes our members in the military is a full debate and a list of objectives and goals in this mission so that when we do reach those goals, when our brave men and women accomplish those things, they can come home and we don't end up in a quagmire like we had in Iraq and like we had in Afghanistan. And by the way, the taxpayers also deserve an answer because they're going to see the price of gasoline and groceries go up because of this. And that's just all I'm asking Congress. That's all I asked them to do today was to debate this and authorize it and give it a scope and some mission so that we can, when the soldiers are done, they can come home and it doesn't drag on forever.
Look, I've been a big supporter when I was over. I went to Iraq 3 or 4 times and 2 full combat deployments over there. And that was my biggest thing. But the problem, too, is the armchair quarterbacking once we're in it. Do you agree now, at least? Will you give some credit to the guys on the ground that they should probably just finish the immediate campaign before we start meddling in anything?
Well, they're doing a great job taking out, the tactical assets of Iran and their ability to even defend themselves. I've got no doubt that we can level Iran if we put our mind to it. The question is, what comes next? And you're right about this, Carl. Once you declare war, once Congress authorizes it, it's up to the president to execute the war, to wage the war. And Congress at that point does need to take their hands off. You can't say, oh, you shouldn't have moved these troops there. You shouldn't have attacked that. All we are obligated to do under the Constitution is give that authorization. And then once we've authorized it, we do need to give members of our military the tools they need to accomplish the job.
Well, I just hope that we get a less armchair quarterbacking, at least for the immediate future, so our guys can kill bad guys. And then we come back to the drawing board. And I'm with you. I'm not for nation building or arming random people that we don't know. Congressman Thomas Massie, stay on this slush fund, man. We'll have you back.
All right. Thanks, Carl.
All right. Bye. Coming up, voter ID.